The world holds its breath. Nuclear war, once a relic of the past, is now a headline, a terrifyingly real possibility. The doomsday clock ticks forward, pushed by the very leaders meant to keep us safe. This is not a drill. Tensions between the United States and Russia have erupted into a crisis of confidence and control. At the center, Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, leaders whose rhetoric and military postures grow ever more aggressive. The architecture of nuclear deterrence built over decades is being dismantled. Guardrails are gone. The road ahead is shrouded in fog. Across cities from Warsaw to Washington, the conversation is no longer about strategy. It's about survival. The language of ultimatums and red lines dominates, leaving little room for compromise. The balance of mutually assured destruction now seems dangerously unstable. Rationality, clear communication, and a shared desire to avoid catastrophe. These assumptions are being tested. We stand on a precipice, the shadow of the mushroom cloud looming large. Two nuclear-armed giants circle each other, every move scrutinized for intent. The stakes are absolute, not a political argument, but the potential for irreversible catastrophe. The world asks, how did we get here? And is there any way back from the brink? President Trump's philosophy is simple: peace through strength. For him, that means a military so powerful no adversary would dare challenge it. He's made nuclear modernization a centerpiece, pouring billions into bombers, submarines, and missiles. At rallies, he boasts, "We're rebuilding our nuclear arsenal to a level nobody's ever seen before." The logic: if America's arsenal is unmatched, it will never need to be used. Trump frames this as correcting years of neglect, restoring American prestige, and deterring rivals like Russia and China. Critics warn it's pouring gasoline on a fire. Trump's approach is transactional. Every negotiation is high stakes, and nuclear force is always on the table. He's questioned arms control treaties, calling them one-sided and outdated. For Trump, strength isn't just about having weapons. It's about making sure everyone knows you're willing to use them. This public, assertive deterrence is a sharp break from past administrations' more nuanced strategies. The goal? Eliminate any doubt about American resolve. But this blunt messaging also eliminates space for de-escalation. Every move is a signal, every word a warning. The risk, unpredictability, and miscalculation on a global scale. In Trump's doctrine, deterrence is loud, visible, and always one step from the edge. In Moscow, Vladimir Putin is determined to restore Russia's status as a global superpower. He's modernized Russia's military, focusing on next-generation nuclear weapons, hypersonic missiles, nuclear-powered cruise missiles, underwater drones. They did not listen to us then. Listen to us now, he warns the West. Russia can't match U.S. spending, so Putin invests in disruptive technologies to bypass American defenses. State media frames NATO as an existential threat, justifying massive military spending and stoking patriotism. Every missile test and military exercise is presented as defense against Western aggression. Russia's doctrine allows for first use of nuclear weapons if the state's existence is threatened, a strategy that deeply worries the West. This escalate to de-escalate approach lowers the threshold for nuclear use. For Putin, nuclear weapons are both shield and sword, deterrent and tool of coercion. The world cannot ignore the Kremlin's voice or its arsenal ever again. Trump and Putin are mirror images, nationalist strongmen believers in overwhelming deterrence. Each sees the other's buildup as a threat, fueling a cycle of escalation. It's a classic security dilemma, supercharged by ego and political risk. The danger of miscalculation is immense. Old Cold War channels have withered, and new rules are being written on the fly. What one leader sees as resolve, the other may see as a prelude to attack. The relentless search for advantage only deepens instability. In nuclear strategy, a perceived edge for one is an existential threat for the other. The rhetoric of strength is now backed by hardware. The U.S. is overhauling its nuclear arsenal, new stealth bombers, submarines, and lower-yield warheads. Proponents say these weapons deter. Critics say they make nuclear war more thinkable. Russia matches pace, conducting bold military maneuvers and deploying advanced submarines in the North Atlantic. SNAP exercises mobilize tens of thousands of troops along NATO's borders, simulating conflict with the West. NATO responds with its own buildup: multinational battalions in Poland and the Baltics, missile defense systems in Romania. These forces are a tripwire. An attack on them triggers NATO's collective defense. Russia sees U.S. missile defenses as a threat, claiming they could be converted for offense. Both sides deploy advanced sensors, satellites, and cyber capabilities, shrinking decision time in a crisis from hours to minutes. A false alarm, a cyber attack, or a mid-air collision could escalate with terrifying speed. The world is watching a real-time war game where the pieces are real and the consequences final. The hair-trigger environment leaves no margin for error. Every move is a test, every day a gamble. The line between exercise and escalation is razor-thin. This isn't an abstract game, it's reshaping daily life. In the US, anxiety returns, survival kit sales spike, schools review old protocols, and nuclear war is back in public debate. In Eastern Europe, the threat is existential. Civil defense drills and shelter checks are routine. In Russia, state media frames the West as aggressor, fueling both pride and fear. The human cost is measured in anxiety, resources diverted from daily needs, and the erosion of hope for global cooperation. People see each other less as fellow humans, more as threats. The dream of a world free from the bomb fades. The shadow of nuclear fear is everywhere. In crisis, communication is a lifeline, but today it's fraying. Diplomatic channels between Washington and Moscow are in disrepair, embassies, downsized treaties abandoned. Trump and Putin prefer direct, risky, leader-to-leader talks, bypassing cautious diplomats. A single misinterpreted word could have catastrophic consequences. The collapse of formal structures leaves few venues for dialogue or trust building. Military deconfliction lines prevent accidents but not arms races. Public rhetoric replaces real diplomacy, turning every statement into a performance. The world watches two nuclear powers shout across a canyon with no one left to mediate. Escalation isn't just strategy, it's politics. For Trump, a tough stance rallies his base and distracts from domestic woes. For Putin, confrontation with the West is essential for legitimacy and control. Both leaders risk being seen as weak if they de-escalate, making compromise politically dangerous. The cycle feeds itself. Nationalist rhetoric at home demands a response abroad. The line between posturing and real conflict blurs. The world becomes a captive audience to political theater with nuclear stakes. The danger, the performance could become reality. The world stands at a crossroads, escalation or restraint. The choice rests with leaders, especially those commanding nuclear arsenals. The current path is one of growing danger. Dominance does not equal safety. True strength is the wisdom to refrain, to communicate, to seek common ground. The international community must demand accountability and revitalize institutions built to prevent catastrophe. We cannot be passive spectators to a drama that risks our existence. The line between deterrence and disaster is thin, maintained by human judgment. The world has pulled back from the abyss before, because leaders recognized there are no winners in nuclear war. The challenge now, relearn that lesson, and choose restraint over destruction. The fate of generations hangs in the balance.